3 Lives 3 Worlds, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. By Tanki Gongzi. Translated by Poppy Toland. Chapter 6. I worked really hard after that, spending all my days in my room, studying and thinking deeply about immortal magic and Taoist practice and reading the immortal classics left by the older generation of immortals in my spare time. My fellow apprentices were comforted by the transformation in my attitude. Every time I learned a new skill, I stood outside Mo Yuan's cave and practiced it. Even though he did not know I was doing this, it brought me peace of mind. I was sitting in meditation in the peach grove on the back peak of the mountain one day when first apprentice sent a messenger crane telling me to hurry to the front hall, where a guest was waiting for me. I snapped off a branch of peach blossoms, as the one in Mo Yuan's room had started to wilt. He was still in confinement and had not been back to his room, but I wanted to keep it tidy and pleasant so that he had a comfortable place waiting for him when he came out of his confinement. I walked to the front hall, twisting the branch of peach blossoms in my hand. I went past the central courtyard, where 13th and 14th apprentices were sitting under the date tree, taking bets about whether the guest in the front hall was male or female. I assumed that it must be fourth brother come to visit me, so I took out my night pearl and hesitantly laid my bet. The person sitting in the front hall looked nothing like first apprentice had described. It was that member of the demon clan, second Prince Li Jing. He was sitting in a graceful upright posture in the pearwood imperial tutor's chair, his eyes half closed as he sipped his tea. He gave a start when he saw me come in. Mo Yuan had carried out a massacre in the Purple Light Palace, and I assumed that Li Jing was here to take revenge. Instead he rushed over and grasped my hands with affection. "Si Yin, I've thought it all through. I want to spend my life with you." My peach blossom branch clattered to the floor. "Give me money, give me money, it is a girl." 13th apprentice yelled loudly from outside the door. I was extremely confused. I thought about it a moment before opening the front of my gown and giving him a flash of my chest. "But I'm a boy," I said. "You have such a good relationship with all the wives in your bedchamber. You aren't this way inclined." I was not really a boy. The fist-sized fox heart under my skin and flesh was not as broad as boys, it was a girl's, slender, gentle, and delicate. But mother had tricked Mo Yuan into taking me on, which meant that I was stuck in my male form until I had finished my studies. Li Jing stared at my flat chest in surprise. "I've been thinking a lot since I left your room that morning. I was scared by my desire for you, and I spent my days surrounded by beautiful women, trying in vain to numb myself. It worked at first, but I didn't expect to miss you so much, to think about you day and night." Si Yin. Overcome by emotion, he walked over to embrace me. "I will be homosexual if it's for you." I looked up at the peach blossom wood rafters, not knowing what to do. 14th apprentice's laughter drifted over from the distance. "Give you money? Who exactly is meant to be giving who money?" Li Jing had walked for miles and miles to the remote Mount Kunlun to confess his feelings to me, but in a boy's form, I did not feel that I could return his love. I tried to let him down gently. It was getting dark and already too late for him to take the mountain path, so I allowed him to spend a night on the mountain. When first apprentice heard that there was a homosexual demon clan member who had come up the mountain to kidnap me, he beat him up and drove him away. I admired Li Jing's courage. He refused to be cowed by the severe beating first apprentice had served him. Every few days he would send over his stead a fire kailan, with a poem describing his heartbreak. At the beginning they read, "We are a pair of lovebirds in the sky, intertwining roots beneath the ground." A few days later, he was writing, "I yearn to see you, which day will it be? This anguish is slowly killing me." A few days after that it was, "My belt is loose around my waist, but no regrets have I, for him I will gladly wither away, become sallow and finally die." The paper he wrote these on was useful for making fires, and 13th apprentice, who was in charge of stoking the stove, collected them all up for this purpose. I desperately tried to save them, but 13th apprentice protested. "You spend all day on the mountain doing nothing but waiting for others to feed you. Waste paper like this is rare. How can you be so selfish?" I felt unable to argue with that. I was still young, and despite spending all my days with men, I still possessed some girlish sentiment. Li Jing persisted in writing to me despite my lack of response to his poems, and every day his fire kailan would arrive with a new poem. Slowly but surely he was starting to win me over. One day the fire kailan brought over a short poem that read, "Life is long, but it has an end, but this sorrow of mine will even death transcend." I was filled with terror, thinking it must be a suicide note. In panic I jumped astride the fire kailan, planning to make myself invisible so that I could enter the purple light palace and convince him not to do it. But the fire kailan carried me to a cave dwelling at the foot of our mountain instead. It was a natural cave, which had been kept very neatly. Li Jing was sprawled out on a marble couch, and I could not see if he was dead or alive. I felt as if half the sky had just caved in. I jumped down off the fire kailan and went to shake him. I shook and shook and shook and shook, but I couldn't wake him. Feeling completely helpless, I resorted to my weapon. I sent thunder and lightning storms at him along with vicious whines, one after another, but still he did not wake. The fire kailan could no longer bear to watch. "All your weapon is doing is hurting his flesh. Perhaps you should try to rouse the prince's fragile heart instead? Say something that will give him hope." And that is when I said it. That sentence. "Wake up and I will accept your love." Sure enough he opened his eyes, and although he had been brutally ravaged by my silk fan, he beamed. "Si Yin, if you tell me you accept my love, you can't go back on your word. Help me up. You've given me such a battering with your fan that all my bones have loosened." Later Big Brother told me that romantic ploys were unlike other ploys, more like appeals. And romantic appeals were unlike other appeals, more like ploys. After suffering a period of heartbreak myself, I believe that to be true. However, I did not understand that truth back then. Li Jing sent away all his bedchamber wives, and I stayed with him. It was lunar April, and the peach blossoms along the mountainside had just burst into flower. Once Li Jing had been successful in his love crusade, the poetry stopped. There were no more visits from the fire kailan, which delighted first apprentice, who assumed that Li Jing had finally lost patience and given up. Li Jing still felt scared when he thought about the terrible beating first apprentice had given him, and although he lived at the foot of the mountain, he never ventured up it. So it was I who would descend the mountain each day, after I had finished class and gone to Mo Yuan's cave to report what I had learned, where Li Jing and I would have our tryst. I still remember all the exquisite little things he gave me: crickets woven from cocoa grass, a piccolo made from bamboo husk, all crafted by his own fair hands, very lovely. Once he gave me a bunch of bright yellow flowers from a cucumber vine. Back in the Purple Light Palace, Princess Rouge had once told me that her brother had suffered from an eye disorder that made it hard for him to distinguish between yellow and purple. He saw both these colors as a strange shade ordinary people could not even imagine. He gave me these cucumber flowers, thinking he was presenting me with some special rare species. I did not have the heart to tell him what they really were, and besides, a flower was a flower even if it did come from a cucumber. I dried these flowers and pressed them between the pages of my Taoist practice book for safekeeping. After my heart had been broken, I could no longer think about that period in my life, about falling in love with Li Jing. Many years had passed since then, and so much had happened, and many of the details had blurred in my mind. But I remembered the next big thing that happened: Xian Nu turned up. Xian Nu was the youngest sister of Big Brother's wife. When Big Brother married my sister-in-law, she already had an infant in arms. An accident at her maiden home had meant that there was no one else to take care of Xian Nu. Big Brother and his wife had looked after her for some time, and she and I would play together. Xian Nu was a beautiful girl, but for some reason she became infatuated by my looks. She was still just a child, but she would spend all day talking about how she wanted a face just like mine. Listening to her go on like this for a few hundred years was very annoying. She knew that Zhayan had excellent face-changing skills, and on her birthday one year, she made a special trip over to the 10-mile peach grove to ask him to transform her face to look like mine. Xian Nu got her wish, which made her very happy. I got some peace and quiet, which made me happy too. Not long after, I started noticing some imperfections. It was not Zhayan's magic that was flawed, I just found it disconcerting and dizzying to look at a version of my own face every day. Gradually I started drawing away from Xian Nu and spending time with fourth brother instead. Xian Nu grew up and returned to her family home, and the two of us rarely saw each other. While Li Jing and I were in our honeymoon period, my sister-in-law sent me a letter explaining how her mother was forcing Xian Nu to marry a blind bear spirit. Xian Nu had run away from home and was living in their cave dwelling, but my sister-in-law worried that their mother would soon track her down. She and Big Brother had discussed it and wondered if Xian Nu could take refuge with me for a while. As soon as I received this letter, I went to arrange a room for her to stay. I went to First Apprentice with a letter explaining that an immortal friend was planning to visit me at Mount Kunlun and asking if they would mind accommodating her for a short time. First Apprentice had been in high spirits lately, and after discovering that my visitor was a female immortal, his spirits soared even higher, and he agreed readily. 3 days later Xian Nu made her low-key entrance into Mount Kunlun, soaring in on a grey cloud. She gave a start when she saw me. In her letter, my sister-in-law had explained that Xian Nu did not know she was to be staying with her childhood playmate, Bai Qian, just that I was an immortal friend that they were on good terms with. Xian Nu settled down on Mount Kunlun. She looked even more like me these days. I can't believe she's not your sister. First Apprentice said. When you are with her, it's only your listless spirit that allows me to tell you apart. In truth, Xian Nu was a little despondent herself, and her beautiful face was looking sallow. I saw her as family and naturally wanted to cheer her up, and so the next time I went down the mountain to visit Li Jing, I decided to take her with me. Li Jing stood there staring at Xian Nu in stunned silence the first time he saw her. It was a while before he regained his composure. "Where did this female Si Yin come from?" he blurted out, still staring in disbelief. Xian Nu started to giggle. Seeing her finally starting to look happy, I felt as if a weight had been lifted, and from then on I took her with me to Li Jing's whenever I visited. One day I was up in the date tree in the central courtyard, picking dates, planning to take them to Li Jing's cave and give to him as a treat once the sun set. First apprentice walked over looking bitter and stood beneath the tree. "When I beat up the demon clan homosexual who came to abduct you, you whined that I was being too violent, and so I was careful not to beat him to death," he said through gritted teeth. "Now I wish I had done so. I managed to stop him from abducting you, but now he's gone and abducted Xian Nu. I lost my grip and fell out of the tree. I managed to lift my head and say, 'First apprentice, can you repeat what you just said?' He came over to help me up. I was at the foot of the mountain when I saw him and Xian Nu walking together in the distance, holding hands. They were looking very friendly. He helped me halfway up and then stopped. Hang on." He scratched his chin. "Xian Nu is a female immortal. How on earth have she and this homosexual gotten entangled?" I was off like a bolt of lightning, throwing aside his hand and flying out the door. Li Jing's fire Kailan was dozing outside his cave. I cast a spell to turn myself into a moth and fluttered straight inside. Sure enough, there on the marble couch, I could make out the outline of an intertwined couple. The girl underneath, who had a face just like mine, was panting softly, while the man on top had loosened his long black hair and was murmuring, "Xian Nu, oh, Xian Nu." My chest felt as cold as ice. I could no longer sustain my moth form, and as a gust of wind blew through the corridor, I fell to the floor back in human form. Luckily I was able to stand steady. I had not lost all my Mount Kunlun poise. Li Jing and Xian Nu both turned their heads at once, looking at me with flustered panic. I remember walking over very calmly, slapping first Li Jing and then going to slap Xian Nu, but Li Jing grabbed my hand before I could. Xian Nu covered herself in the quilt and hid in his arms while Li Jing's face turned first green, then white. We stared at each other for the longest time. Finally, he released my hand. "Si Yin, I have let you down," he said in anguish. "I am not homosexual after all." I felt too angry to do anything but laugh. "That's very convenient for you. Just decide if you want to be homosexual or not as it suits you. That's fantastic. What about me, though?" He fell silent a while before saying, "It was ridiculous of me to think I could be a homosexual." Xian Nu's cheeks were streaked with tears. "Si Yin, please give Li Jing and me your blessing," she sobbed. "We are in love. You and he are both men and, well, it's improper." I regained enough composure to laugh bitterly. So what is proper than abandoning someone? Seducing someone else's lover? Destroying someone else's relationship? Are these all proper ways to behave? She went pale and said nothing. Physically and mentally exhausted, I waved my sleeve and let go of them. My first taste of love had changed me completely. Realizing that I had been the fool who had actually introduced the two of them upset me even more. It was the pain of losing love, mixed with the pain of the injustice. All the things associated with Li Jing, all those worthless little presents he had given me, now felt like objects of torture. I burned the lot of them, but it brought no relief. Drowning my sorrows was much more effective than burning things, so I spent 3 days down in the Mount Kunlun wine cellar, drunk out of my mind. When I came to, I found myself in Master's arms. Mo Yuan was sitting against a huge wine jar, a wine gourd in his right hand, while he supported me with his left. He frowned when he saw me awake. "You've drunk too much," he said gently. "It would have been much better to just cry it all out. Emotional pain festers inside the heart. And it's a shame to waste all this good wine." Finally, with my arms wrapped around his leg, I started to cry. When I had finished crying, I looked up at him and said, "Master, you've finally come out of confinement. Does that mean that you're better? You don't have any lasting injuries or complications, do you?" He looked at me and gave a faint smile. "It's fine. You won't need to stew up your body to make me any medicinal soup." My fellow apprentices all thought I was in love with Xian Nu and was feeling anxious and wretched because Li Jing had stolen her away. This story I concocted was not a very good one, but Mo Yuan was the only one who saw through it. "Li Jing might have bright eyes, but he is seriously lacking vision," he murmured as he stroked my hair. After coming out of confinement, Mo Yuan received an invitation from Xianming the winter god. Xianming lived deep in the northern desert, where he single-handedly administered 1,200 miles of the northern sky. A Taoist assembly was to be held there at around this time, and he sent an envoy to Mount Kunlun, inviting Mo Yuan to the high altar to give a lecture. As father of the universe's legitimate son, Mo Yuan was extremely revered, and when the gods from the 4 seas and 8 deserts held Taoist assemblies, they were always certain to invite him. Mo Yuan cast a glance at the invitation in his hand and said, "Lecturing about Dharma is not very exciting, but we could go and climb the mountains around where Xianming lives. Pack your bags, little 17th. You're coming with me." Surging with happiness, I hurried to my room to pack. First apprentice came to see us off. "Master usually doesn't accept boring invitations like this," he said. "He's obviously noticed how miserable you've been and is taking you away to cheer you up. I know you've had a hard time recently, little 17th, but Master has been very busy with his own matters, and spending all this time with you on top of it, he must be very tired. You're an adult now. You must start to act like one and put Master's mind at rest. You must learn to be a more filial apprentice." I gave a sheepish nod. We spent 49 days in the northern desert, most of them completely free and at ease. When Mo Yuan was not lecturing, we headed out to explore the vast mountain range. When it was Mo Yuan's turn to take to the lotus stage, I joined the immortals in the audience, cracking sunflower seeds and snoozing. Mo Yuan always felt that Taoist practice was a dull topic, but he still managed to talk about it for a long time. Many immortals had come to debate with him on matters such as reincarnation, nirvana, and the unpredictability of the human heart. I was overjoyed to see Mo Yuan coming out victorious every time. I had managed to put the Li Jing affair almost completely in the back of my mind. It was only in the dead of night when all was quiet that I still had the odd nightmare or two. Xianming's Taoist assembly was a great success. When it was over, Mo Yuan took me to the northern desert for a few days before we packed up our stuff and headed back to Mount Kunlun. Soon after returning, we heard the news that the demon clan's second prince had gotten married. It had been a lavish wedding, and the demon clan celebrated for 9 days straight. Mount Kunlun was now enemies with the Purple Light Palace, and naturally we had not been invited. The only letter I got was from my sister-in-law writing to tell me how happy their mother was about the wedding and how lucky Xian Nu was to have me looking after her. I was not a small-minded person. Li Jing may have turned his back on me, but it was probably only puppy love. A few years down the line, I might even have felt relieved about this outcome and could have even met with the two of them and drank to their happiness. If the following events had not taken place. The night that Mo Yuan had come to rescue Ling Yu and me, he had left Qing King seriously injured. 3 days after Li Jing's wedding, Qing King was finally recovered, as he gave orders for his troops to revolt. He said it was in revenge for his wife's abduction. This was not a very honorable excuse. Qing King was not married to Ling Yu when Mo Yuan plundered the palace, and it was unwarranted to call Ling Yu his wife. But despite this flimsy excuse, Qing King managed to convince hundreds of thousands of demon clan soldiers to revolt. To show his resolve against Mount Kunlun, Qing King chose a demon clan wife for Li Jing and gave the recently married Xian Nu a severe whipping and sent her back to Mount Kunlun, dripping in blood. First apprentice was extremely soft-hearted. He wrapped Xian Nu up in an embroidered blanket and carried her inside. Mo Yuan suspected it was a ploy, but what could he do? None of the apprentices would have believed him. He just had to turn a blind eye and watch as first apprentice performed his good deed. The demon troops marched to within 30 miles of the border between the two clans' territories, and the Sky Emperor sent down 18 immortal children to persuade Mo Yuan to fight against Qing King. Eventually Mo Yuan took out the suit of black crystal armor, which had been packed at the bottom of his case for all these years. He brushed off the dust and speaking calmly said, "Since Qing King is using me as an excuse to go to war, and I am the god of war, I have no choice but to go to battle. Take this suit of armor, little 17th, and inspect it thoroughly. It has been so long since I've used it, and it might have been chewed through by insects." The old Sky Emperor was very pleased. He sent 100,000 Sky Commanders to fight alongside Mo Yuan and sprinkled 3 cups of wine over the Sky Gate to send him on his way. As Mo Yuan's 17 apprentices, we stood in a line, ready to follow his command. It was the first war I had ever experienced. Flames shot up into the sky, and smoke filled the air for 81 days straight. Mo Yuan was the undefeated god of war, and this battle should have been easily won. But as the demon clan army was being thwarted, Xian Nu stole the Sky Soldiers' tactics diagram and sneaked it back across the border to give to Li Jing. If only we had known that Xian Nu's abandoned wife performance had been part of their strategy, and her injuries just a ploy to gain our trust. Unfortunately, First Apprentice had looked after Xian Nu, taken her in, and by so doing unleashed white-eyed terror upon Mount Kunlun. It had taken a lot of Mo Yuan's energy to recuperate from my calamity, and his primordial spirit was still badly injured. Mo Yuan made use of the fact that the demon clan did not yet have a full understanding of battle strategy and led the Sky Commanders in an urgent offensive. Eventually, he surrounded the 30,000 injured members of the demon clan at Ruo River. During the final battle, 2 rows of soldiers lined up along the banks of Ruo River, and thousands of turbulent clouds filled the sky. Until that point I was certain that the outcome was set. The demon clan would either hand over a letter of surrender or they would be wiped out. I had no idea that Qing King might bring out the Eastern Desert Bell, a weapon with enough force to obliterate everything between the sky and earth, the most powerful weapon in the universe, and also the most destructive. Qing King gave a laugh. "We will not surrender. Not as long as I am still the emperor of the demon clan. Either the demon clan will rise above the sky clan or I will die taking everyone in the 8 deserts with me." Even though the Eastern Desert Bell was a weapon with the power to destroy the world, Mo Yuan was its creator and would naturally know how to defuse it. I had no idea that Mo Yuan was struggling to even keep himself going. The Eastern Desert Bell may have been his creation, but he had no control over it now. The only way to overcome the wrath of the Eastern Desert Bell was to offer it the sacrifice of a strong and healthy primordial spirit before it had the chance to detonate fully. I still remember Mo Yuan putting down his sword and leaping onto the Eastern Desert Bell, clinging to it with all his strength. Crimson light burst out from all over the bell, and as it passed through his body, it turned an even richer red. He suddenly turned his head, his lips twitching. Later, 7th apprentice, a proficient lip reader, told us that Master's final words had been, "Wait for me." Mo Yuan was the master of the Eastern Desert Bell, and he understood its internal universe better than anyone. Before the bell managed to destroy all his cultivated spiritual energy, Mo Yuan concentrated his remaining strength and cast a spell, sacrificing himself in order to lock Qing King securely inside the Eastern Desert Bell. As soon as the Demon Emperor was locked away, his eldest son, the army general, led his 30,000 injured soldiers over to the 100,000 sky commanders, and quivering with fear, they handed over their letter of surrender. Later, 4th apprentice told me I had been holding Mo Yuan's blood-covered body as this was going on, my eyes red, saying that I would die before accepting the demon clan's letter of surrender. I clutched tightly onto my fan and spoke fiercely about how if Master could not be saved, all those under the sky should be buried in the sand. My warmongering talk nearly brought me to blows with the Sky Emperor. My fellow apprentices were worried about what I was capable of and decided the best thing for it was to knock me out and carry our bodies back to Mount Kunlun. 4th apprentice told me I had been acting like a complete thug, but I could not remember a thing. All I recalled was waking up one night and finding myself on a bed with Mo Yuan, my hands wrapped tightly around his fingers, and discovering that he was not breathing. The Demon Clan revolt ended there and led to big changes in the Purple Light Palace. First Prince was imprisoned, and second Prince Li Jing donned the blue robe and became Demon Emperor. The day he succeeded to the throne, he presented the old Sky Emperor with his palace garden's rare winter moon lotus as a tribute. The old Sky Emperor sent 18 upper immortals down to Earth to help Mo Yuan's 17 apprentices arrange his funeral. I have no idea where these astonishing magic powers of mine suddenly appeared from, but in my unkempt state, my hair all over the place, I flicked my fan at these 18 upper immortals and sent the lot of them running out of Mount Kunlun. Master may have passed on, but he made us promise to wait for him, 7th apprentice said. Do you think we should preserve his body in case one day he returns? It was like offering a clump of rice reeds to a drowning man. there was something that not many people in the 4 seas and 8 deserts knew apart from King Kaita foxes, but the blood from a 9-tailed white fox had magic properties. If it were fed a bowl of heart blood from a 9-tailed white fox, given once a month, Moyuan's immortal body would remain well nourished. Moyuan was a male god, and this blood would therefore need to be given by a she-fox so as to maintain the balance of yin and yang. Luckily, I was a she-fox, and I had a reasonable supply of cultivated spiritual energy. I stuck a dagger into my heart right then and there and fed Moyuan's body with the blood. My heart bled for 2 days and nights, and I nearly died. The magic worked. Moyuan's body accepted my blood, but to keep his body in good condition would require a continued supply of my blood. No other foxes would do. I was knotted up with worry. It was around this time that I heard about a possession held by the demon clan called the Jade Soul. If placed in Moyuan's mouth, the Jade Soul would stop his body rotting. It was a sacred artifact and would be difficult to get hold of. I decided to put aside my issues with Li Jing and go to see him. I hoped that he would remember those early days of friendship we both had shared and agree to lend me the Jade Soul. The demon clan was to blame for the critical state Moyuan was in, although the injury had happened in battle, making guilt hard to assign. I humbled myself, fawning and flattering. Li Jing sat in his throne inside the glorious purple light palace and looked me up and down. He had become a lot more serious since being crowned Demon Emperor. Even though the Jade Soul is one of our demon clan's sacred artifacts, he began, slowly and deliberately, because of our friendship, I would lend it to you in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of disruption at the palace recently, and some days ago the Jade Soul went missing. I am very sorry to let you down. I felt as if a thunderbolt had just flown in through the sky and split open my forehead. I felt as if my soul had left my body. I was making my way out of the purple light palace in a daze when I found myself face to face with Xian Nu, dressed in her finery. "Si Yin, you have come so far," she said in an aloof voice. "Why not rest a while before continuing on your way? It will look as if you haven't been treated very courteously at the Purple Light Palace otherwise." Although I detested her, I felt too physically and mentally exhausted to deign to respond to her. I walked around her and continued on my way. She did not seem to realize she was being snubbed and put a hand in front of my face. "Didn't you come here to ask for the Jade Soul?" she asked softly. I saw that she was holding a rock of jade encircled by a flowing halo. I lifted my head sharply and looked at her. "The Emperor gave it to me yesterday as a reward," she said with a giggle. "He told me to rub it against my scars. Qing King gave me such an extreme whipping, and while my injuries are starting to get better, I've been left with some bad scarring. It's not very pleasant for girls to have scars on their bodies, is it?" I looked up at the sky, gave 3 loud cackles, and cast a spell to freeze her. I took my fan out, and carrying her under my arm, I marched all the way to Li Jing's court. I pried the Jade Soul out of her palm and placed it in front of him. He lifted his head to look at me, his beautiful face blanching. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I flung Xian Nu into his arms and took a step toward the door. With a bitter smile I said, "My biggest regret has been coming to the Purple Light Palace to visit you, Demon Prince. You two are a perfect match. One has the cruel heart of a wolf, the other the cowardly lung of a dog." From this day forth, Yin and the Purple Light Palace are bitter enemies. My youth and pride stopped me from just grabbing the Jade Soul and taking it. Instead I left the Purple Light Palace empty-handed, kicking and punching everyone I passed on the way. Returning to Mount Kunlun, and seeing Mo Yuan's increasingly dismal color, I did not really know what else to do. At dusk I stole into the alchemy room. I took whatever medicine I could lay my hands on and mixed it in with my fellow apprentices' food. In the middle of the night, while they were all sleeping heavily, I hoisted Mo Yuan's body onto my back and carried him off Mount Kunlun and back to King Kaiyu. Fenji Mountain was a small mountain to the north of King Kaiyu. Halfway up the mountainside was a cavern in which a large amount of spiritual energy had gathered over the years. Father had named it Yanhua Cave. I placed Mo Yuan's body onto an ice chest inside Yanhua Cave. I was worried that the next time I took blood from my heart, I might be too weak to carry it over to him, so I simply lay down by his side. Mo Yuan's body was racked with injuries. I needed to feed him some blood every day until these were better, and a cup every month after that. I really did not know how many nights I could sustain such intense feeding, but what got me through was the thought that if I died, he would not return either. Instead we would be buried together and would travel through to the netherworld side by side. That was why I had brought him to Yanhua Cave. It was a place I had chosen as my own final resting place sometime before my sky calamity. I spent 7 days like this and was on the verge of death when I opened my eyes and saw Mother, her eyelids red and swollen. She had come to transfer to me half of her own spiritual energy. That was what brought me back to life and returned me to my female form. Although I still needed to plunge a knife into my chest every night to get heart blood to feed Mo Yuan, being in Mother's care greatly eased my suffering. I shook my head and saw that Li Jing had crossed the bamboo bridge and was walking toward me. I remembered that I had fallen into this underground cavern where I had happened upon Demon Emperor Li Jing having a secret tryst with this she-goblin. He took my hand. Yin, I've been looking for you for 70,000 years, he said in anguish. I glanced in bewilderment toward the she-goblin in the straw pavilion. I had heard of creditors chasing debtors, but never the other way around. Especially strange was the case of a debtor who came over specifically to remind the creditor what he owed. However you added it up, Li Jing was the one who owed me. I shook off his grip and took a step back. He took a step forward, staring at me the whole time. Do you still resent me? Back at the Purple Light Palace all those years ago, you told me that from that day forth, we would be bitter enemies. But you must know how much I gathered up my sleeves and forced a smile. Demon Emperor, you needn't be concerned, those were words spoken in the heat of the moment. Nowadays the demon and god clans have a peaceful coexistence. All these years haven't been for nothing. I have learned to be reasonable. I will not create trouble where there is none, nor will I disturb the peace at the Purple Light Palace. But you and I should continue to keep our distance. He looked shocked. Yin, I abandoned you back then because you weren't a girl, he explained quickly. So these last 7,000 years, I heard that you had. But I didn't believe them. I've thought about you for all these years, Yin. Hearing the name Yin floating around and around my head was starting to make me dizzy. Who says I'm not a girl? I asked angrily. Open your eyes and have a proper look. Do men tend to look like this? He was about to come over and take my hand, but his hand stopped in midair. So you are a girl? He asked in astonishment. So back then you. I moved to the side, dodging him. Master didn't accept female apprentices, so my mother changed my body into a boy's, I told him. Since you've brought up the past, Demon Emperor, I have a couple of words to say to you. When you abandoned me and got together with Xian Nu instead, 4 Kylans welcomed her into the Purple Light Palace, and you celebrated for 9 days straight. That was your official wed. He waved his hand to interrupt me. Back then when you were so upset, why didn't you tell me you were a girl? I completely forgot what I had been about to say. I wondered how best to respond. I must have been very upset back then, although I can hardly remember it now. And you adored Xian Nu, loved her interests and her character, not just her face. It was over between us. What difference would it have made if I'd told you? He pursed his lips. I had been unbelievably unlucky this evening, but now I saw that I had managed to fluster him with my words. I took my opportunity, bidding him a hurried but courteous farewell before turning and casting a spell, taking to the wind, and flying off. On my way up, I made myself invisible to avoid any further entanglements. All I could hear behind me was his panic-stricken yells of Si Yin. But there was no one left in the world named Si Yin. End of chapter 6.